For everyone saying that tank balance is fine, balance of the jobs is fine, shut the fuck up. You are absolutely 100% wrong again. The bald man is yet right again. Man, it's almost like I know what I'm talking about. Adjustments to Abyssos. Hello, this is Yoshi-P, producer and director of Final Fantasy XIV. There's been a lot of discussion surrounding our explanation for adjusting the HP of the boss in Abyssos, P8 Savage, as well as the necessity of the adjustment itself. Firstly, please allow me to apologize for the disruption caused by this balancing issue, as for any offense resulting from the insufficient explanation we initially provided. Okay, in this post, I hope to clear up any misunderstanding as to how and why this adjustment was made. Okay, first off, I want to say this. They did not have to come out with this, but they did. So that is huge. They felt that they didn't explain themselves enough, so they came out with a follow-up explanation. So that's huge. That's awesome. All right, reason for the HP adjustment. As was explained in patch 6.2 on notes, a miscalculation on our part resulted in the boss's HP being roughly 1% too high in comparison to the difficulty of previous 4th stage Savage raids. So let's think about it for a second. Shiva was the hardest DPS check since like Midas or Gordius, so somewhere around there. This one, I believe, was tighter. And the reason why I believe this one was tighter is because I actually progged E8 Savage on Warrior. Now, Warrior wasn't as far behind as it was now, but the comp we used was not an optimal comp, and we killed it without primal weapons. So the fact that this DPS check needed not only primal weapons, but also an extra week worth of tomes, shit was fucked. This door boss was, I believe, the tightest DPS check this game has ever had outside of like Gordius. This is pretty rough. Okay, so anyway, we do, of course, understand and appreciate that many players nevertheless honed their ability rotations, raised item levels, and repeated the fight over and over in order to claim victory. Having the HP set to this higher value, however, had other undesirable consequences, including certain jobs being excluded from party recruitment, a growing dissatisfaction with the overly punishing degree of difficulty. As our miscalculation was the root cause of these issues, we decided that the best course of action was to explain our mistake and correct the inflated HP to the value it should have been in the first place. This type of correction has little precedence in 14's development, and although the decision was made after considerable debate, we once again apologize for the impact it had on player enjoyment. First thing I want to say is that they made a mistake. They came out and said they made a mistake and apologized for the mistake. Now that is awesome. To give SC credit, they are amazing at releasing content without any fuck ups. So they're really good at releasing polished content. This type of thing does not happen very often. And I want to say that this is the first time that I can remember of them having to adjust the boss's HP while the raid tier is current. I cannot remember another time where they have ever had to do this. Now they have done this, but it has been after the raid tier has been dead. So I believe this is the first time. So the fact that this is the first time shows two things. One, it shows that nobody is perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. Two, it shows that they take responsibility and have corrected their mistake. That's a poggers for me. Unfortunately, the damage was done. However, they learned from this mistake, and that is the important part. For everyone saying that tank balance is fine, balance of the jobs is fine, shut the fuck up. You are absolutely 100% wrong again. The bald man is yet right again. Man, it's almost like I know what I'm talking about. It's almost like maybe if you just shut the fuck up and less typey, more listening. Maybe you just shut the fuck up. Listen to me. Think about it this way. I don't have hair, so I got to compensate somehow, right? But I got a really wrinkly brain. I'll do the thinking for both of us. It's fine. 99.9% of the time, I'm right every time. I can 100% confirm you're not killing that fucking door boss with subpar jobs. You're not killing that door boss with a fucking warrior paladin and a fucking red mage and a reaper. It ain't fucking happening. Not unless one of two things happens. Not unless you just get the god run and everything crits, or you run multiple fucking ults or some shit shit, and everybody in the fucking raid has more gear. Those are the only ways. All of this is super good. They will take this information and use this information in the future. Source of the miscalculation. This issue was touched upon in the patch notes, but allow me to explain our balancing process in further detail. Okay, this is awesome. Firstly, the development team bases adjustments on the following premises. The top percentage of players are overwhelmingly better at the game than we are. Okay, there's a reason why this is in red. Okay, say it with me. The top percentage of players are overwhelmingly better at the game than we are. We regret not stating this more clearly in the previous explanation, but said premise is the reason why we do not release content tuned precisely as it was when the battle team's battle testers cleared it. I'm going to talk a little bit about this. The top percentage of players are overwhelmingly better at the game than we are. Okay, this is good for multiple reasons. This is good because, one, for some reason, people think that the devs are the best at the game. I don't know why people think that. Just because they develop the game doesn't mean that they're the best at it. That's just not how it works. They have released jobs that were too strong in the past. For those of you that did not play Ninja on release, holy fucking shit. If you think Ninja's good now, when Ninja first came out, it was the only melee job that had no positionals and was the highest damage and had the highest utility. Ninja was absolutely insane on release. They had to go back and nerf it because of how good the players were at Ninja. There's been other occurrences like that throughout the history of Final Fantasy XIV. Whenever people try to argue with me about shit like this, normally it's a person that started back in Stormblood or Shadowbringers or some fucking person that's only played the game for a couple years. Okay, well, I've literally played this game since it's been out. Like, I don't say the shit to prove to you like that I'm right or that I'm smart. I already know I'm smarter and better than you. I already know that. I don't need to prove it. Instead of coming to the discussion with that mentality that, oh, I'm going to disagree with this person because I don't like the way he presents himself. I don't like the way that he's shoving this information in my face like this. Maybe if you come to the discussion like, you know what? I'm just going to actually listen to what this motherfucker has to say. You'll probably fucking learn something. But that's okay though. That's okay. I understand I usually give a bad first impression. But throughout 14's history, this has proved over and over again. They have made some mistakes recently. They just didn't realize, okay? So let me give you some examples, okay? Living Dead. Why the fuck was it so shit for so long? They fixed it. Blood Weapon. It probably never even occurred to them your AoE is a spell and not a weapon skill. It probably never occurred to them that when you use Inner Release and you use Inner Chaos, it eats a stack. These are the type of things, just very simple little things that prove this statement is true. And they are aware of this, which is good. First off, I just want to say that this is not like a dick measuring contest. This is everybody working together to make the game better, because this game is gonna succeed the best if Square Enix works with this player base, which they are. The fact that they came out and said this is really, really good. Okay, moving on. We always add a little bit extra to the boss values before rechecking the fight and releasing it live. Okay, that makes sense. The dev team is good. They can test the shit thoroughly. Their track record for coming out with like quality polished content is immaculate. It's insane. They have come out with a lot of fights, a lot of content, and they have very, very, very few fuck ups. The team responsible for balancing boss fights does so without debug commands and at the appropriate item level, employing available materia, foods, and medicines while experimenting with mitigation actions of various job compositions. Okay, so this is also insanely good information. Yet we recognize that player skill far exceeds our own. If we were to ship content with the same values which challenged our battle team, the top raiders would be deprived of that by the skin of your teeth victory in the initial week of the release. Based on the team's skill and our experience, that little bit extra usually translates to balanced test clear values plus 1 through 2% HP. So, you know, I've done super early prog, every single raid tier, every single ultimate, you know, excluding back in a Realm Reborn. I was pretty casual back in a Realm Reborn. This little bit extra, it was definitely tuned for an extra week of gear. But unfortunately, this little bit of extra was also tuned for a very good comp because of the imbalance of jobs, because Warrior and Paladin were so far behind Dark Knight and Gunbreaker. Yes, there were Warrior clears. Yes, there were Paladin clears. However, if you look at those clears, they have a banger fucking comp outside of that job. They were allowed a little bit extra DPS of wiggle room. The raid tier, I believe, was tuned appropriately. However, it was tuned appropriately for a very, very meta comp. Now that's a problem. The final values account for other mathematical factors too, of course, such as the estimated damage the party could deal from the moment of victory to the end of time limit, as well as total burst damage potential based on frequency and amount inflicted. The numbers these various calculations are based on are what we were referencing when we said that our team's performance was higher than anticipated. They're basically saying they play into raid buffs. They're not wrong here. Okay, so they've basically dumbed the game down, right, to 2-minute bursts. And they're just assuming that everybody bursts in the minute and 2-minute window. But as most of you know, they do not. We got freestyle dancers. We got freestyle Dark Knight. We got a freestyle Astro. We got a no-chain stratagem scholar. We got, oh, I don't have Brotherhood on my hotbar monk. We got it all, baby. This statement right here leads me to believe that they tested it with playing into raid buffs. And you know what? They're kind of not wrong. All right, anyway, the latest installment features a boss closely tied to the dark past of a major character, and so we were focused on making this battle even more of a challenge than usual. As such, the battle team spent an inordinate amount of time together designing and testing the fight mechanics, which in turn led to them improving party coordination and communication beyond what they usually achieve for a given boss fight. I think that this is true, and I think that this makes sense because that was a hard fight. Final adjustments were, however, still based on the team's victory data, and so the little bit extra we added for the release proved to be that little bit too much. Here's one thing that the community is not understanding here. The devs did not test the fight at the current level. They tested the fight and then they add this HP after the fact. But I believe that if the content would have been released what it is now, you would be able to take a warrior, you would be able to take a reaper, you would be able to take a machinist. I truly believe that you would be able to do that because I did week 1 and we would have smashed the DPS check. Even with warrior red mage, we would have cleared the DPS check by at least a percentage if it was released on how they tested it. This is what bit them in the ass. They added this value and it exposed how truly unbalanced the jobs were. The biggest thing that people need to take from this is that the devs, they're not saying that you guys are trash and we're better than you. They're saying we tested it at a lower threshold. Because we tested it at this lower threshold, we just applied our normal formula, but it proved to be too much. So it was a mistake. Look, I know you guys are talking about machinists. This is just what I'm going to say. If you want machinist buffs, then somebody's got to cry about it. It ain't going to be me. I'm too busy crying about other shit. I can't cry about everything. I don't play machinist. I don't know the job. The only fucking gun I use, okay, that's a gun blade, bro. That's gun mode. Live by the gun, die by the gun. Don't play no fucking machinist, bro. Play Gunbreaker. Gunbreaker main. So I'm saying gun mode. We talking about freedom. We talking about liberty. Sing it for me, brother. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? Reasons aside, our adjustments were off by that crucial 1%, and we again offer our apologies to those gaming experience who adversarially affected by the correction and insufficient explanation. A higher difficulty rate is a special kind of battle. We want players to enjoy a satisfying, hard-won victory, and we keep that ideal in mind when making tweaks and balance adjustments. Although we failed to walk that delicate line this time, the experience will help us to design a more perfectly thrilling battle in the future. Okay, so right here, I just want to say, man, this is really well said, and I 110 million fucking % believe that they're going to use this information in the future. Why adjust the duty rather than job balance? Before we even read this, I'm just going to say it is much easier to just nerf a fight than it is to adjust 6 jobs. When balancing jobs, each job's base damage number at the applicable item level are adjusted with respect to the difficulty of playing that particular job and its rotation, as well as its support actions and their effects. Okay, now here is a part that I do not agree with. The difficulty of playing that particular job. I do not think that difficulty should have any impact on how much a job's damage is. If a job is easier, in my opinion, that should not warrant lower damage. If you're trying to homogenize the jobs, then difficulty between the jobs loses all argument because all jobs play effectively very similar to each other. another. Look how easy Dark Knight is in comparison to how difficult Paladin is. Why is Paladin so shit and Dark Knight so good if you take the difficulty of playing a job? And here's another thing too. Difficulty is a very biased metric. Some people actually think Dark Knight is challenging because it has a lot of off GCDs. They find it difficult to have a high APM or CPM or whatever. I don't. Difficulty is subjective. That's why I do not agree with this. Okay, anyway, naturally, the above factors are also affected by the mechanisms and combination thereof at work in each battle, meaning that every job's numbers will not necessarily be at ideal values during all available battles. In addition to the inherent variance, there are indeed times when our calculations or adjustments are incorrect, producing damage numbers lower than intended and requiring subsequent strengthening of a job. In this case, when considering job balance more broadly, the jobs that needed emergency adjustment in this fashion were Paladin and Warrior. You're welcome. You're welcome. However, the aforementioned issue with P8 Savage also caused certain jobs to be better suited to raid than others and made the damage check required to clear extremely strict, resulting in a situation where players felt obligated to choose jobs with higher damage output when attempting the raid. Okay, now this is 100% true, and anyone who disagrees with this did not do week 1 prog. Anyone who did not do week 1 prog, shut the fuck up. You have no opinion on this matter. You're speaking out of turn. Shut the fuck up. Attempting to ameliorate this by buffing certain jobs without making changes to the raid itself would have negatively impacted overall balance within each role and likely resulted in disappointment for those whose jobs were already dealing sufficient damage for the raid and therefore received no adjustment. Ugh. Okay, unfortunately, adjusting all jobs in such a short period is not feasible. Here's another thing, man. Here's another thing. This is not true. Some of it is true, but it's not fully true, though, because they could have easily buffed Warrior and Paladin sooner, and it would have been fine. I mean, they did after the fact, so it literally proves that I was right. So here's the thing. Whose jobs were already dealing sufficient damage for the raid and therefore received no adjustments. Fuck them. Fuck them! You're going to sit here and tell me that Dark Knights and Gunbreakers are going to be salty that Paladin and Warrior received buffs. Who cares if they're mad? They're already dealing enough damage. Fuck them. Who cares? It doesn't matter if they're mad. This is one thing that I do not agree with in a reasoning, that they can't buff other jobs because, oh, my already performing job didn't get buffs. Well, yeah, no shit, dumbass, because it's already fucking performing. It's already good. You know, this is why Gunbreaker gets buffed every single fucking patch. Remember at the beginning of this expansion when Dark Knight was just shitting all over all tanks and Gunbreaker and Warrior were actually kind of close, and then Gunbreaker got a buff. And then it got another buff, and they got another buff, and they got another buff, and now it's highest. I do not like that this is the criteria for when jobs should get a fucking buff. Thus, the root cause of the issue was a mistake in balancing the duty. An immediate fix that maintains role balance was required. These are two very, very good things. Well, thanks to acknowledge anyway. It is a game design fundamental, as well as our policy that rather than adjust the jobs to suit each battle, we balance the jobs independently and only then set the battle content difficulty. Changing the job balance for one single duty would end up causing more problems than solves. So we decided to address the problem in the manner we did, ameliorating the root cause. I appreciate that. Regardless of our rationale, the issue has been a source of frustration for many, and I apologize for that. I hope, however, that this has helped clarify our approach. Absolutely, Yoshi-P. Thank you very much. Seriously, thank you very much for sending out this letter. This is very good because this answered a lot of questions that I had. So they were caught between a rock and a hard place. The rock being the jobs are imbalanced and for some fucking reason we didn't know, even though there was plenty of data. And the hard place being, oh shit, the content's already out. What the fuck are we gonna do? I think what they did was actually the correct decision. I think nerfing the boss's HP was the correct decision because it was the fastest and easiest decision. They needed a fix immediately. So, okay, in conclusion, the adjustment to P8 Savage was never intended to be a nerf, but merely the correction of values that were set inappropriately for the 4th stage Savage raid to begin with. Nevertheless, I understand that it feels like a nerf for those who worked hard and were on the verge of clearing the fight as it was originally implemented, and I regret having caused such disappointment. Okay, so this is a big feels bad, man. Look at this, wipe, 49%. My friend posted that in the Discord. It It was a 49% wipe. It locked in on Enrage and then ticked down afterwards. I feel bad for groups and players that tried to do this. I mean, even the week 2, right? Even the week 2, you're working on it week 2. You wipe to 50% over and over and over and over again. You try to optimize. You try to be better. I feel like those players, their satisfaction would have been a lot higher if they would have had the opportunity to clear before the nerf. However, it was one of those things where it needed to be done. As we strongly wish you to continue enjoying fiercely challenging Savage fights, particularly in the early days after release, we will do our utmost to further improve the tuning of these battles. Furthermore, we will strive to better understand what our players think about such issues and improve our operational protocols, perhaps by waiting a week before implementing fixes. Okay. In addition to providing details on our perspective, so that if we again find ourselves in a similar situation, we may arrive at a solution that is more satisfying to everyone. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, I sincerely apologize for any disruption that our error may have caused to your gameplay experience and appreciate your patience. Okay, so I would normally say here that this is just a copy-paste PR response. Now, while some of it is, of course, some of it is, we're sorry, we're sorry, but they provided some very, very important pieces of information here. One is this: perhaps by waiting a week before implementing fixes, this could entail like some type of notification, some type of patch notes, something. And also this here, in addition to providing details on our perspective, this is extremely important. It's important to know how they come to their conclusion, because if they come to their conclusion with the wrong mindset, then the community needs to give that feedback and say, yo, this is wrong. And they'll probably listen just based on everything that they've said. Right? I do believe that they're going to use this information and they're going to take it forward with them whenever they design shit. And I think that this is going to lead to either more thorough testing or better job balance in the future. While in my experience, Square does not like to admit to mistakes, they will eventually come around to it. And when they do, they normally learn from it. They're a little stubborn. It's fine. I guess that's fine. But the important part is they learn and they work with a community, I think. So I'm grateful they came out with this. Thank you. Thank you. And that's it. I gotta pee. That's it. Pee time. Everybody go pee. Let's go pee together.